There are rules that every rider knows. Wear your helmet, use your signals, keep the shiny side up. But then, there are the ones nobody talks about. The secret rules. The kind of stuff you only learn after years in the saddle or after you made a dumb mistake and had to learn the hard way. These aren't just obscure laws buried in a DMV handbook either. I'm talking about the real-world knowledge passed around between seasoned riders at gas stations, garages, and long-haul pit stops. Tips that can save you money, save your skin, and make you look like you actually know what you're doing out there. So today, I'm pulling back the curtain and sharing the motorcycle rules nobody talks about, but every smart rider should know. Let's get into it. Number 1. The look twice, save a life rule applies to you too. A lot of riders are familiar with the saying, look twice, save a life. It's usually plastered on car bumpers and safety campaigns to remind drivers to check for motorcycles. But here's the thing. This rule isn't just for the other guy. It applies to us just as much, if not more. Too many riders assume they're visible because their headlights on or they're wearing a high-vis jacket. Newsflash, people in cars still don't see you. Not because they're evil or blind, but because the human brain is wired to look for car-sized threats. A quick glance doesn't register a slim silhouette moving fast. So even if they looked right at you, they might not register that you're coming. That means you have to be the one looking twice. At every intersection, every roundabout, every left turn in SUV. You need to anticipate that someone might pull out without seeing you, even if you've got the right of way. Is it fair? No. Is it smart? Absolutely. Looking twice doesn't just mean for others, it means scanning your own surroundings constantly. Checking your mirrors more often than you think you need to. Glance at your blind spots. Watch that sketchy car in the side street that's edging out just a little too far. And always leave yourself an escape route. The best riders aren't the fastest or the flashiest. They're the ones who look like they're invisible because most of the time, they are. So yeah, look twice, save a life is solid advice. Just don't forget that it applies to the guy in the helmet too. Number 2, the unspoken rule of group riding. Know where you belong. Group rides can be some of the best experiences on two wheels, but they can also be a total disaster if you don't understand the silent rules that keep things running smoothly. And the biggest one? Know where the hell you belong in the group. Every experienced rider knows the front of the pack isn't for showboating. It's for the riders who know what they're doing. The lead and sweep riders aren't just there to ride, they're there to manage the pace, keep people safe, and handle unexpected situations. If you're new or unsure, or just not confident yet, don't stick yourself in the middle trying to keep up. That's how accidents happen. There's a rhythm to group rides that isn't written down anywhere. It's about spacing, formation, communication. Staggered formation isn't just a cool look. It gives everyone room to react. If you're tailgating the guy in the front or weaving from side to side because you think it looks cool, you're not just embarrassing yourself, you're putting people at risk. And here's the other part. If you fall behind or get separated, don't panic. The group should have a plan. If they don't, that's a red flag. Always agree on the route, gas stops, and what to do if someone gets lost before you even hit that starter button. That's how grown-ups ride in groups. Too many new riders join a group ride thinking it's a race or a show and tell. It's not. It's a team effort. And if you don't know your role or respect the flow, you're the reason people stop doing group rides in the first place. Number 3. Lane positioning isn't about what looks cool. Here's something beginner riders never hear enough. Your lane position isn't for style points. It's not about looking aggressive or hugging the yellow line like your Valentino Rossi in Rush Hour. It's about survival. See, every lane on the road has 3 real positions: left, center, and right. Where you ride within that lane should depend entirely on traffic, visibility, and road conditions around you. And yet, too many riders pick one position and stay glued to it like it's some sort of code. Usually the center. Worst place to hang out, by the way. Why? Because that's where all the grease, coolant, and oil from cars collects. If you're riding in the center of your lane on a rainy day and you feel your bike squirm for no reason, chances are you just rode through a trail of slick garbage that leaked out of a dozen cars before you. Not exactly confidence-inspiring when you're leaning into a turn. Riding in the left or right tire track gives you better traction, more visibility to drivers, and often a quicker escape route. For example, if you're behind a big truck and hugging the left tire track, you can peek around to see what's ahead. If you're in the right track, you're more visible to traffic merging from side streets. It's all situational. So here's the secret rule. Lane positioning is dynamic. It changes every few seconds depending on what's happening around you. You need to constantly adjust. People who stick to one track because that's how they learned it are missing the point. It's not about tradition. It's about reacting to reality. Number 4. Your helmet has a shelf life, even if it looks fine. This one gets ignored constantly and sometimes even laughed off until someone eats pavement and wonders why their trusted helmet didn't do its job. Here's the truth. Your helmet has a shelf life. And no, it's not just marketing BS from the manufacturers trying to sell you another one. Most helmet makers, and more importantly, safety standards like SNELL and DOT, recommend replacing your helmet every 5 years. That's not just because the exterior might fade or get scratched up. It's because the inner foam, the part that absorbs the energy in a crash, starts to degrade over time. UV light, sweat, heat, and even just sitting in your garage all take their toll. And don't even get me started on dropped helmets. Some people think, I didn't hit that hard or it landed on grass. But helmets are designed to take one impact. If you've dropped it hard enough to make a thud, there's a chance it's compromised. And the next time you need it, it might not protect you like you think it will. Another thing people don't realize, wearing the wrong size helmet is just as dangerous as wearing an old one. The thing should be snug, like slightly uncomfortably snug. If it wobbles when you shake your head or if you can slide it off with the strap done up, it's the wrong size. And if you bought a used helmet, I got news for you. That's like buying a used underwear from a garage sale. Just don't. The secret rule here is simple. Your helmet is a one-use, time-sensitive piece of gear. It's not forever. Respect it, replace it when needed, and it'll return the favor when you need it the most. Number 5. The gas station glance rule. Check your bike when you fuel up. Here's a secret that veteran riders know by instinct, but nobody really teaches. The gas station is your maintenance checkpoint. No, I'm not saying you need to bring a full toolbox every time you fill up, but while that tank is filling, you've got 60 seconds to check for problems that could ruin your day or your bike. First off, take a quick lap around the bike. Look for fresh oil drips on the ground. That could be a sign of a leaking gasket or a loose drain plug or worse. Next, glance at your tires. Not just the tread, but the sidewalls. Look for cracks, nails, or flat spots. Give the chain a quick visual too. Is it dry, sagging, coated in gunk? Those few seconds can tell you everything you need to know about whether your next ride will be smooth or end with a snapped chain on the highway. Also, peek at your brake lines. Any sign of wetness near the calipers or master cylinder is a red flag. Wiggle the levers and pedals while you're at it. Feel off? Better to catch it now than at 70 miles an hour. It's easy to fall into a routine where you only notice things when something's really wrong. But by turning the gas station into your casual inspection point, you get ahead of the curve. Doesn't take any effort, you're already stopped. You're already standing next to the bike. So why not do what experienced riders do and make it count? This little habit has saved riders thousands in repairs and maybe a few lives too. So yeah, fill your tank, but fill your brain while you're at it. Look, listen, check. It's your 60-second insurance policy. Number 6. You can say no to test rides, and you should. There's a weird pressure some riders feel when a buddy or stranger asks, "Hey man, can I take your bike for a quick spin?" For some reason, a lot of folks feel like they can't say no, like it'd be rude or unbiker-like or something. But here's a rule every seasoned rider knows. If someone asks to ride your bike, and you're even slightly uncomfortable with it, the answer is no. Period. Bikes aren't like cars, they're personal. You adjust them to fit your body, your weight, your preferences. Hand controls, clutch engagement, throttle sensitivity, all of it is dialed in for you. Hand your keys to someone else and they might stall it, drop it, or worse, crash it. And guess who's liable? You. Even if they sign some napkin saying, "I'll be careful," that won't hold up when your bike's in pieces and someone's in the hospital. It gets worse if they don't have a motorcycle license or insurance, or if they crash into someone else. Then you got a legal nightmare on your hands. Now, I get it. Maybe it's your buddy who wants to try out your bike because he's thinking of buying one. Or it's a fellow rider at a meetup who's always wanted to ride one of these. Doesn't matter. If you don't want someone riding your bike, you don't owe them anything. Handing over the keys doesn't make you generous. It makes you foolish if something goes wrong. The secret rule here: protect your bike like it's your spine, because one bad ride can ruin both. It's okay to say no. Real riders won't take offense, and if they do, that's just another reason not to hand them the keys. Number 7. Chain slack specs aren't just suggestions. A lot of riders glance at their chain, see it's not dragging on the ground, and figure everything's fine. But here's something most people never get told. The amount of slack in your chain isn't just some vague guideline. It's a precise measurement that matters more than you think. Every motorcycle has a recommended chain slack, usually somewhere between 20 to 30 millimeters, depending on the bike. That little bit of slack is there for a reason. When you're riding, your rear suspension compresses, which tightens the chain naturally. If the chain is too tight to begin with, every bump you hit or every time you sit deeper into the seat, you're putting massive strain on your sprockets, your output shaft, and the chain itself. Over time, that can lead to a snapped chain or a damaged transmission. I've seen bikes with busted output shaft seals just because the owner didn't give the chain enough breathing room. Now on the flip side, too much slack isn't any better. It'll slap against the swing arm, skip teeth under load, and make your throttle feel sloppy. You'll also wear out your sprockets way faster. Not to mention, it's a dead giveaway that you're not maintaining your ride properly. Here's a good trick. Check the chain slack when the bike's fully loaded, meaning with you sitting on it, gear and all. That's when it's at its tightest. Most people check the slack on the side stand, which doesn't account for suspension compression, and they end up tightening it too much. Moral of the story? Respect the slack. It's not just about comfort or performance, it's about longevity and safety. Read your manual, measure it properly, and stop guessing. Number 8. Don't trust the fuel gauge like it's gospel. Most people coming from cars assume the fuel gauge on a motorcycle is just as reliable. But here's a dirty little secret. On a lot of bikes, that fuel gauge is more of a rough guess than a precise instrument. Especially on older models or budget bikes, the gauge can be wildly inaccurate, bouncing around like it's on a caffeine binge. And if you trust it blindly, you'll find yourself pushing a 500-pound machine down the shoulder of a highway, wondering what went wrong. Some bikes don't even come with a fuel gauge, just a reserve tank and a petcock valve. Even if your bike does have a digital display, that doesn't mean it's smart. I've ridden bikes where the last bar stayed on forever, making you think you got time. Then boom, empty. Others drop fast once you hit the halfway point. And don't even get me started on distance to empty readouts. They're calculated based on recent riding behavior, and unless you're riding at a steady speed with no elevation changes, they're about as reliable as a politician's promise. Here's what real riders do. We track our mileage. Reset that trip meter every time you fill up. Learn how far your bike typically goes on a full tank, whether it's 120 miles, 180 or more, and plan accordingly. That's the kind of awareness that keeps you from getting stranded in the middle of nowhere. Also, learn the signs of low fuel that don't involve a screen. Hesitation on acceleration, sputtering at high RPMs, or your engine cutting out when leaning hard into a turn. That might mean you're running on fumes. Trust the machine, not the meter. Old school habits still save new school riders. Number 9. Cold tires aren't just a track problem. Ask most street riders what they know about cold tires, and you'll probably hear something about racing or track days. Yeah, gotta warm them up before leaning hard. That's true, but it's not just for racers. Cold tires are a real issue on the street, especially when the temps drop or your bike's been sitting a while. Tires are designed to work best within a certain temperature range. That range gives you maximum grip, predictable handling, and solid braking. When your tires are cold, the rubber is harder, stiffer, and less able to stick to the road. It's like trying to run in ice skates. You might stay upright, but the moment you push it, you're sliding. What most riders don't realize is how long it actually takes to warm up your tires properly. Just cruising down the street or riding a few blocks doesn't cut it. You need a good 10 to 15 minutes of consistent riding before they reach anything close to optimal temp. That means no aggressive turns, no sudden braking, and definitely no flexing your chicken strip muscles the first few miles. And this isn't just a cold weather thing. Even in summer, if your bike's been sitting overnight in the garage or under a shade tree, your first few minutes on the road should be cautious. Cold pavement plus cold tires equals poor grip, plain and simple. So yeah, tire warmers and tire pressures matter at the track, but smart riders on the street know to take it easy at the beginning of every ride. Those first few miles aren't the time to test your lean angle record. Save the heroics for later, after your rubber's ready. Number 10. Kill switch first, key second. Here's a tiny habit that says a lot about whether you've really bonded with your bike. Using the kill switch to shut it off, then turning the key. Some riders only ever use the key, and while that's not the end of the world, it can cause more problems than you think. Most modern motorcycles are designed to be shut down using the kill switch. It cuts off the ignition while keeping the electrical systems in their proper shutdown sequence. It's especially important on fuel-injected bikes or those with accessories wired in. Always turning the key first can lead to some electrical hiccups, incomplete ECU shutdowns, or even battery drain if you forget and leave something on. Plus, in an emergency, your muscle memory should know exactly where that kill switch is. If you never use it, you won't reach for it instinctively when things go sideways, and that tiny delay could mean the difference between a close call and a full-on wreck. So yeah, it's a small thing, but like most things in motorcycling, the little habits matter. Use the kill switch, then the key. There's a reason these aren't the kind of rules you read in a manual. Most of them come from real-world experience, the kind you earn the hard way, not the kind you Google once and forget. But now, you've got the upper hand. These are the quiet rules, the street wisdom, the kind of stuff that separates a real rider from a guy who just bought a bike last weekend. And even if one of these rules made you go, "Huh, didn't know that," then good, mission accomplished. Now it's your turn. What's a motorcycle rule you live by that no one ever talks about? Maybe something you learned the hard way. Drop it in the comments and school the next rider. And while you're at it, like the video, subscribe, and hit that bell, because I got more no-nonsense riding wisdom coming your way. Ride smart, ride safe, and as always, keep the rubber side down.